What's up? What's up? It's your boy Creative Ambition. Thank y'all for tuning in. I appreciate y'all. Learn to subscribe if you want some of that good motivation early in the morning. But today, let's talk about it. Let's talk about anxieties, worries, doubts, fears, all that good stuff. And ask the simple question, what are you afraid of? You know, we go through this, we go through life and we look at society as a whole, right? And sometimes, some of us, okay, because I've been in this stage and thank God I'm out of it now, but some of us go through this stage in life where we expected ourselves to be at a certain level in life. We expected ourselves to have a certain amount of money in the bank. And then when we really look at that bank account or we really look at what we are, you know, we didn't meet our own expectations. And sometimes we got to get to a place of like, you know what? No time like the present. We can't be in fear that it won't happen. And we have to learn how to sit still. You know, my last name is Still. Okay, so there are times when God was like dealing with me, and I would have these anxieties about not being at a certain place in life. And God would tell me to manifest in my last name. And I was like, man, I feel like with everything going on around me, I don't even know how that works. You know what I mean? And I felt like certain things that I didn't do in life, like I didn't do it because I was afraid of rejection. I was afraid that I wouldn't have the smarts, the know-how to run a company, run a business. There are certain things I felt like I was messing, like I felt I would mess it up. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't even start it. And it sucks that we think of these things all in our mind. Like we can build a fortress of fear, and it'll take, God and God himself to kind of break that fortress down. My pastor has said, he says, what we think is not always the truth. So what are you afraid of? Simple and plain. There's certain things in life that when fear sets in, it's a healthy fear. And what I mean by that is, when you're a kid, there were certain fears that was kind of put in you because there was a consequence. And that you bring that into adulthood for good reason. If you did something you had no business doing, I remember I broke a window, a glass of some sort, and I knew it was wrong, and it was by accident. I was just throwing rocks, and there was a consequence, but I was afraid, like, oh my God, I'm gonna get this whooping. I'm gonna be on punishment. It's the summertime. I'm not gonna get to see the little honey dips outside. You know what I mean? No, just joking. But I was afraid that I wasn't gonna get to play with the friends and all that other kind of stuff, right? And so I had this mindset that, like, not only am I gonna get a punishment, like a whooping, I'm gonna get a punishment. And so I had this fear, and it was a healthy fear. So what it did was, it gave me certain guidelines and parameters. I'm not gonna go outside of that because I'm gonna get in trouble. And that has helped me as an adult, not going to jail, not selling drugs, not doing this or not doing that. It helped me stay in certain perimeters so that I won't get won't get shot or killed. Certain things, it seems like it's inevitable, but certain certain things we have in life that erect these fears in our lives. Some of it I can say is healthy because what it does, it helps us stay within certain guidelines, and you start building off of that. But some of this stuff has stunted our growth. Some of these fears from your childhood you haven't let go. And then you have to ask yourself why. You have to learn how to understand it. Some of the things that you think are not always the truth. Say you may be feeling a certain way about someone, and because you did something or acted out of character, you think that person doesn't like you anymore. And so you stop going around them, and then months and months go by, and you're wondering, they're wondering what happened. They thinking they did something wrong. But you're holding on to this thing, and then when you finally see each other, there was no reason to be afraid of that situation in the first place. So how many things have you built up in your mind that really isn't true? So you have to learn to understand why are you so afraid of things? You know what I mean? Like, that's simple. Why are you so afraid? So learn how to understand it. Learn what the cause is. Some of us have all these fears, What is the cause of it? Did it come from your parenting? Lack of parenting? Parents or guardians? Certain things, I get it. Some people have had it really rough. Going in and out of the system, parents on drugs, all these different facets, homeless. So you do certain things based on how you used to live. And now as an adult, you've taken these fears and anxieties and they have, conquered your mind. I remember as a kid, I used to watch, I would go to tell my mother something. And if she was sound asleep, she would, what is that? What? And I'm like, dang, mom, I'm just telling you somebody's at the door. And she would like, boy, don't scare me like that. I'm like, why are you yelling at me? You was on sleep. Like, it's not that serious. But I didn't know, why she was so afraid or whatever. And I'm thankful now that she's no longer like that. But, sometimes we got to find out, one, understand it, cause it, question it. Sometimes you got to ask those questions. Why am I so afraid? Why am I so afraid to take the next step? What will happen if I do take the next step? You know what I mean? When you question it, it allows you to get to the core of why you're so afraid, or certain things really scare you the way they do. And then you got to question like, okay, if I fail at it, then what? You know what I mean? So get beyond yourself with that. So after you question it, right? Learn to accept the failure sometimes. Sometimes that's our best lesson, accepting the failure. And some of the greats in our society have accepted failure in certain aspects because that's what made them better. That was their drive and motivation to get to the next level. I read a quote one time and it said, how did he say it? He said, as a man thinketh, no, the man that think he's right and the man that thinks he's wrong, they're both right. So which one are you? I ask you right now, why are you so afraid? After you accept certain things in life that cause the failure, okay, learn how to push through it. So as you get to these certain places in life and you ask yourself, I am afraid of this, this, and this. Why am I so afraid? You know what? I'm just gonna press through. If I fail at it, all right, whatever. If I spend this money and I lose that money, I'm not saying be just frivolous with it and not be, what do you call it? Be frivolous with it and not be smart about how you are supposed to do things. I'm just saying, So as you're being, pressing through, like I said, not just be throwing things into the wind and like just hope it land on something. I'm saying that some of us got to truly press through our fears. I remember I used to have a fear of roller coasters until I got on the roller coasters. They were very fun to me, as a youth. And I wasn't someone who was afraid of heights until I got on the roller coaster. Like, oh my God, this is about to go down. But then I realized I love that thrill, right? But because of that fear, I still won't. I'm not skydiving. I'm not bungee jumping. I think that's a healthy fear. They got one time to mess up. One. And I'm not knocking anybody to do that. If that's your thrill, cool. That's you. But for me, I think I got a healthy fear of it. I'm just a realist with that, But there are certain chances in life we just got to take them. So we got to press through them, and then you got to learn how to quiet those fears. One of the things growing up, I always want to speak, write, do books and different things, right? And so I'm doing those things now. But what happened is, I'm going to be honest with you, being called a dummy, by my dad at times, you know, friends calling you names, this, that, and the third. I built this fear that I wasn't smart enough. So certain things I didn't do in life because I felt like I wasn't smart enough. And it wasn't until I ran into a young man, I call him my brother, my little brother. I had moved into an apartment downtown and he was my neighbor. And before long, we became, good friends. We ended up talking, just talking about life. I encouraged him to go back to school. He went back to school. But I used to watch this young man. I would watch him smoke his weed, but he would read these real thick books. And he'd be like, man, what books you reading? And now by then, I'm not saying, I thought I was a dummy, but by then I was just like, I don't really read too much outside. I read the Bible, I read, books here and there. But this young man encouraged me to read more. And I was like, So we started reading certain books, and then we would just swap the books, right? And, we would eat, barbecue together, hang out, all that kind of good stuff. And it took a young man like that to show me, I could read good and whatever, read well or whatever. And been addicted to books ever since. But it took me interacting with that young man and watching what he was doing. I would watch him smoke weed and read, over a course of time, a 900-page book. And I was like, I've never seen that before. You know what I mean? Like, I'm reading like 100 pages, 200 pages. Before long, I'm starting to go towards the thicker books and all that kind of stuff. And now I consume information every day. You know what I mean? And this was some years ago. This is about good 7-8 years ago that I really start having this this healthy just love for myself. Like, you know what? I am a smart dude. But I think a lot of those fears and anxiety that I wasn't smart started when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like simple and plain. One year, this is not bragging or anything, but I never had straight A's in school. I graduated high school with a 3.5 or something like that. But my point in saying that is my first report card was a 1.8. I ain't bragging at all. A 1.8 in high school. I was a class clown, talked all the jokes, got kicked out, making people laugh from the window. That was me. That was that guy. And it wasn't until the end of the year. They passed me anyway. I had like a 2.0 or something passing. They got me into the 10th grade. But, because people, thought I was a dummy and talked to me a certain way, I thought I was a dummy in a few aspects. So sometimes you got to quiet those inner thoughts. You got to really get to a place of, you are smarter. You do have something to give the world. I put it to you this way. We all have a unique imprint to press upon the world. And we all have these gifts. No two things are the same. Even something as identical twins might have personality. They might look identical on the outside, but their personalities are different. So I believe that no two things are the same. So there's certain things about you that is not like the next person. And so you have to get to a place of, why are you so afraid to step out of your comfort zone? Why are you going to that job for the past 10 years that you truly hate, that you're so afraid of leaving that because you have the 401k, you have the what do you call it? 3 weeks vacation, 4 weeks vacation, or whatever built up. And listen, I'm not saying just get up and quit your job because you just feel like it and you don't want to work no more. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying start getting out of your fear and start doing the things that you're passionate about. Understand that there's always plenty of jobs out there. So if you really hate where you are, start looking and prepping for that transition. You know what I mean? If you want to run your own business, start looking and prepping for the size of the building that you want, the type of people you want to work with, all these different things. But as time goes on, realize that we don't get that time back. And we've wasted a lot of time because of fears, anxieties, doubts, worries, fears, whatever. So number one, think about that. What we think is not always the truth. So some of the things that people said about me definitely wasn't the truth. You know what I mean? I know that without a shadow of a doubt now. And before I get off, I probably got off topic. I was talking about the, not making good grades in high school and graduating with 3.5. I still doubted myself. And then it took me years later as an adult, I went back to college, even if it was just for a semester or two, and made the dean's list. And I was like, what? I ain't never done that before. I'm juicing, ecstatic. But what it was, I believe God was showing me like, dude, you got some smarts about you. You know what I mean? So quit doubting your abilities. So I just encourage you today, quit doubting your abilities. So understand your fears or anxieties. Find out what caused it. Question it. After you question it, accept some of the things that you may consider as failure. Okay. Um, Learn to press through it, and learn to quiet those inner thoughts, those thoughts that are unhealthy. So this is Creative Ambition. Subscribe for more encouragement for the week. Whatever. Share the video if you liked it. You can hit me on at Kendrick Steele on Facebook or Creative Ambition. It's Creatvambition on Instagram. I'm usually on Instagram talking to folks, chopping it up. So DM me, tell me what you think. Subscribe to the channel. Love y'all. Talk to y'all soon. Peace.